However, people decide to take a swing at something far more valuable: God himself, after Lucifer rebelled against the power of God in heaven and was defeated by the archangel Michael. At that time, scientists in one of the biotechnology laboratories started to clone famous personalities for very high fees. Of course, many wealthy people would like to have a child of a genius like Vivaldi, Galileo, or Michelangelo soon. However, people decided to take a swing at something far more valuable. God himself, Michael, was sent into the underworld where he was forced to live in chains and scorching flames. When Michael personally shackled Lucifer to a rock and pleaded with him to return as a lowly angel, Lucifer said that he would rather to rule in hell than serve in paradise, and issued a warning that he would eventually return to control the earth. While on earth, Lucifer was joined by many demons as he yearned for retribution. When Lucifer fell into the abyss, his followers built a temple there and held the belief that one day he will rise again to rule over earth in our time. American student Lauren Milton is attempting to convince her professor to accept her thesis on the idea that there are no evil or good spirits, but he refuses. He offers to discuss the topic in an informal setting, but the girl declines, and at the same time, a rare exhibition at the museum opens. Everything is on exhibit, including the Shroud of Turin, which has the DNA of Jesus and serves as proof that he was raised from the dead. After acquiring a permit and badge from a priest she knows, Laura enters the museum. The shroud is a representation of Jesus the priest as he leads the Lord to the statue of the Archangel Michael, who has been brought to the museum to guard the shroud. According to Marconi, the War of the Angels was the first conflict. Christ was wrapped in the shroud on the day of his death, but when he rose from the dead, his body shone so brightly that his imprint remained on the cloth. There are many predictions that Lucifer will return, but the Father hopes he won't find a way out. The priest departs to attend to his business, and Laura settles in and starts to draw when she suddenly hears her name. Laura disagrees that evil is not an external mystical force but a personality, and when trouble happens to loved ones it is foolish to blame the devil. However, Marconi is certain that only Michael stands between the devil and men. Despite the late hour, Laura is still working when she notices Lucifer's head on the statue moving and then hears the cry of a raven. The girl walks to the window without noticing the sinister figure behind her, who pulls a sword from Michael's hand and walks away. The guard is prepared to lead Laura out, but she declines since she still has to visit Padre Marconi. Laura closes the window and gathers her belongings. When she arrives to the chapel, she spots a shadowy figure in black slaughtering a guard with a sword. Terrified, the girl flees and hides in the confessional, where she watches as the lady with the sword shatters the glass covering the shroud. When Padre Marconi responds to the disturbance by demanding that the sacrilege be shown in the name of Saint Michael, the lady pushes him aside and stabs him with her sword. The villain sees Laura moving carelessly and gives the order for her minions to grab the shroud and the girl in the hopes that he may appreciate her. The bandits then flee as the fatally wounded priest calls for help. The action shifts to a private auction where one of the scientists, Dr. Laurent, explains that he has developed a method by which he can grow babies from the DNA of great men, thus resurrecting the most notable figures in the history of man. The Archangel Michael then enters his body and vanquishes his enemies. Immediately, a luminous whirlwind descends from the heavens and the Father comes to life. He tries to catch up with the villains, the great Vivaldi's reincarnation and his ecstatic parents. The doctor rushes to cockle when a woman in black appears in the gallery and beckons him to go. They travel to the devil's castle where the doctor sees the shroud, thinking that Lucifer will finally have a decent home. Meanwhile, Laura is being dragged into a room where several girls are already sitting in chains. They are all horrified by what is happening and do something, but Laura is dragged into the room anyway. Test and take pictures. After learning where the shroud keepers were and how they could have permitted this to happen, Father Marconi, or rather their Archangel Michael in his body, makes his way to the guard room where two monks are watching the murder videos. Seeing the person who was murdered in front of them alive, they are shocked. It is explained to him that the cardinal responsible for everything is not himself at the moment. Instead, he sees secret cults and the devil's minions. The old cardinal meets Michael with a gun and becomes furious upon learning of what has occurred. However, upon looking into the man's eyes, the cardinal realizes that the man is not Marconi. The cardinal then proceeds to show Michael Lucifer's castle and implies that his minions intend to revive him. The cardinal then reminds Michael that the scriptures state that the devil will be revealed one day, while the doctor isolates DNA from the blood traces on the shroud. Can free Lucifer. The devil's servants have been offering him virgins' bodies for centuries to obtain a vessel for the devil, but human bodies are too frail, despite the fact that one woman in history was able to carry and give birth to a son of God. Now, science is prepared to let the devil in using Christ's DNA. While the girls tried to come up with an escape plan and exchange their experiences, Michael requests to be escorted to the castle. It turns out that Laura's husband and kid are dead instruments since the doctor was notified of a successful DNA test. The women wait for the attendants to arrive and pounce on them, thinking they will succeed, but another group rushes to their aid and the girls are dragged into the laboratory where they are laid on tables and, despite ferociously resisting, fertilized eggs are injected into their bodies. The doctor then informs Liz of a complete match of all the right parameters with Laura's body. Escorts Michael approaches the dungeon's entrance and issues a warning that a monster and the devil's henchmen are up ahead. Gathered in the pit with the well, two pregnant girls are tied to a pillar in the middle. The monster that has emerged then grabs them and drags them to the entrance to the underworld. The girls are placed in an iron cage and lowered down, but Lucifer is already waiting for them. Sensing the approach of the potential holy mothers, he strips them of their colors and rushes towards them in the form of a luminous stream. The subterranean forces take the ladies. Liz and the servants gleefully devour the living woman as the glowing worm enters Lara's body. The decision is made, and she is led into a glass cage where it is explained that her child will be the new Jesus. Meanwhile, Michael sneaks into the castle and, using a guard's uniform he stole, finds the shroud and tries to find Laura. The doctor enters but Michael rejects him and starts fighting. When Liz learns that the shroud is missing, she issues an order to detain Laura at all costs, and the guards rush in after her. Laura and Michael tried to hide from the underground monster in small spaces, but it eventually catches up with them and attacks the Archangel and Michael. Liz is prepared to do everything to keep the baby when Michael is arrested and thrown on a chain in the dungeon while Loris is chained to a bed, and she orders her to be transferred to a cell. As the castle guards look for the shroud hidden in the dungeon, the monster manages to see the Archangel descend into the underworld. However, once he reaches the bottom, he is attacked by the imprisoned souls and learns that Lucifer has been set free and that his sword is missing. The Archangel is chained to the rock with Lucifer's sword. Laura sees her child in an ultrasound and he suddenly calls out her name. The woman wakes up terrified and sees Liz nearby. Liz finds out what Lucifer told her and then tells the woman's story. Then the demon of greed Mammon flies to him and announces that they will soon close the gate and Michael will remain here instead of Lucifer. He scoffs at his foolishness to come down and Liz explains the changes to Liz's body caused by the need to make it comfortable for the divine child, but the woman doesn't want to accept her imposed role as the mother of an incomprehensible creature. Meanwhile, the people who were given to Lucifer come to Michael pronouncing the oath saved one saved all. Laura speaks unflatteringly of the demon for which he slapped in the face. The lady refuses to accept her imposed role as the mother of an incomprehensible thing, despite Liz's explanation of the alterations to Liz's body required to make it comfortable for the holy kid. In the meantime, those who were handed to Lucifer appear before Michael and swear to save one by saving all. Laura talks admiringly about the devil who received the face slap. And after barricading herself inside, she consumes a chlorine canister. Liz discovers it and assures her that Lucifer will soon consume her entirely and that she will then find peace, but then Laura gains improbable strength, seizes the hated list, and spits the contents of her stomach on her from Lauren's womb. When Lucifer himself starts speaking to Liz, he commands that Liz be slain as soon as he is born and that everyone who knows what is occurring be destroyed. In order to stop Laura from trying to kill the child again, she is imprisoned in a glass tomb, and Lucifer, who has returned to the underworld, taunts Michael and proposes an alliance that no one will be able to overcome. Lucifer flies away, and the archangel realizes this is not at all what he thought, for God, not the devil, has chosen Laura to give birth to Christ, not the devil's vessel. The archangel thanks Michael for his new home but refuses to support the rebel. Laura will give birth to Christ, not the devil's vessel. Despite the fact that the demons are nearby and the sword is heavy, two men sacrifice their lives to deliver it, and Michael is freed. He then exorcises the demons and vows to return for his saviors. When Michael returns to Earth, he discovers the shroud and goes to Laura's sarcophagus. He is horrified to see her transform and tries to assure her that the child is not evil at all and that it is he who will defeat the devil, but Laura gets out and throws him away. Then, she stands over him and informs him that the water is already breaking and that piercing jets are pouring out onto the archangel, who screams in pain. Michael denies Lauren's request to kneel, so she presses her fingers into his neck while using the rest of his strength. Lauren then replaces Michael on her lap. Given that the blood of Christ did not flow and since good is always stronger than evil, Michael asserts that the devil will be unable to exert any power over the kid. Laura pushes Michael aside and starts to wreck everything around her, but the delivery interrupts her. Begins the cult of the devil. Gather in the courtyard of the castle while Liz removes the newborn child. Laura is thrown down the well, and the monster enters the courtyard carrying a sharp-tipped chain. Liz retrieves the newborn child and displays it to the crowd, proclaiming the end of God's tyranny. She then commands everyone to kneel and summons Lucifer to receive the blood baptism. Michael suddenly realizes what is happening and exits the courtyard as the monster spins his terrifying weapon, crushing everyone in the courtyard as the doctor kisses the infant and perishes from the blows. While Laura picks up her child, Michael calls him the God who chose his mother and goes to the well himself to seal the entrance to the underworld where all the demons of hell have rushed, but the monster rejects him. Liz takes the baby away, and Michael finds Laura, who has managed to hold on to the edge of the well, and pulls her out. The bear catches up with Liz's card and unlocks the gates once more. Michael then detonates the explosives he mentioned earlier, and the castle explodes to the great delight of the cardinal. A short while later, the cardinal and Laura, holding the young boy, arrive at the temple to retrieve the shroud. Michael then enters the underworld and frees those who believed in him. Later, Liz sees the cardinal and Laura, carrying the grown boy, out in the woods. She calls the young boy Lucifer, and he turns to face her, and some questions about whether guys genuinely grasp what he is doing come up.